Most of us know the story of USS Indianapolis because of a movie about a shark. We think the monster of the story had fins and teeth, but Quint was wrong. The sharks were just nature doing what nature does. The real monster of the story wore a uniform. He sat in an air-conditioned office while 800 men were eaten alive or swallowed by the sea. And when the truth came out, he made sure the wrong man took the fall. Today we're talking about a terrible disaster in the US Navy history. But not just the sinking, we're talking about the cover-up, because the men of the Indianapolis didn't just fight the sea, they fought their own navy. Grab a drink, you're gonna need it. This is the betrayal of Captain Charles McVay. July 29th, 1945. The Indianapolis had just delivered components for the atomic bomb to the Tinian Islands. The mission, top secret. So secret, the ship is sailing unescorted. No destroyers, no submarine detection gear. It's just past midnight. The ship is sailing through the Philippine Sea. It's hot. Many sailors are sleeping on deck to escape from the heat below. Then, at 12:15 a.m., two torpedoes from the Japanese submarine I-58 slam into the starboard side. The first takes off the bow. The second hits amidship, exploding the fuel tank and the aviation fuel stores. This wasn't a slow Titanic sink. The Indy rolled onto its side immediately. Power was cut instantly. This is crucial because without power, the distress signal couldn't reach the main antenna. So the SOS went out, but it was weak. It took only 12 minutes. 12. In the time it takes you to drink a cup of tea, a 600-foot heavy cruiser vanished. 300 men died in the explosion. Roughly 900 made it into the water. Covered in oil, burned, many were naked. They watched their ship sink under the waves. They thought rescue would be there by morning. They were wrong. The sun came up, and so did the scavengers. Oceanic, white-tipped sharks. Jacques Cousteau calls them the most dangerous of all sharks. They aren't like great whites. They strike and leave. White tips are curious. They bump you. They test you. At first, they focused on the dead, the bodies floating in life jackets. The survivors described the sound: a rhythmic thump, splash, tearing, hundreds of fins cutting the surface. Then, the food supply ran out and the sharks turned to the living. The men formed pod circles. The idea was simple: protect the centre. If a shark came at you, you kicked, you screamed, you punched it on the nose. But the sharks learn. They waited for someone to drift away. A sailor falls asleep. Gone. A man hallucinates and swims off. Gone. By day 3, the salt water was making the men go insane. The heat was cooking their brains. Survivors reported mass hallucinations. One man claimed he saw an island with the hotel, so he swam towards it. He was eaten 50 yards from the group. Another shouted that the ship was just below the surface and the galley was serving cold milk. He dove down, never came back up. For 4 days the sharks feasted. And remember Captain McVay? He was floating there right with them, watching his men get picked off one by one. But here's a detail that the movies leave out. When the first rescue plane finally arrived, the pilot, Lieutenant Adrian Marks, he saw the sharks attacking the men. He was ordered not to land. The waves were 12 feet high. Landing was suicide. He did it anyway. He crashed his plane into the swells to turn it into a life raft. His crew pulling survivors onto the wings while shooting at the sharks with service revolvers. By day 4, 900 men had become 317. And the only reason anyone survived is because Lieutenant Wilbur Gwynn had a loose antenna wire on his plane. He wasn't looking for them. He was looking down to fix a cable, and he saw an oil slick. He radioed base. Many men in the water. The Navy's response: what men? They still hadn't marked the Indianapolis as missing. Now for years, the Navy claimed that the ship was under radio silence, so no SOS could be sent. That was a lie. We now know distress signals were sent, and they were received. 3 separate stations picked up the SOS. Station 1, commander was drunk. At Station 2, the officer had ordered his men not to wake him up. At Station 3, they thought it was a Japanese trap. It wasn't silence that killed those men. It was a hangover, a nap, and incompetence. 880 men died. The press went wild. The Navy needed a villain to distract from the drunk officers and the ignored SOS. So they court-martialed Captain McVay. The charge: failure to zigzag, a manoeuvre that's supposed to make ships harder to hit. It was a show trial, but the lowest moment came when the prosecution called their star witness. They flew in Mochitoro Hashimoto, Japanese commander who sunk their ship. Imagine that. You survived shark attacks, 4 days of hell, and your own country brings the man who torpedoed you to testify against you. But here's the kicker. Hashimoto actually defended Captain McVay. He testified that zigzagging wouldn't have mattered. He said, "I would have hit him anyway." The court ignored him. They found McVay guilty. He was the only captain in World War II to be court-martialed for losing his ship to enemy action. McVay never recovered. For 20 years he received hate mail from the families of the dead crewmen. "You killed my son. Why are you still alive?" On November 6, 1968, McVay walked into his garden, held the toy sailor given to him by his father, and took his own life. But the story doesn't end there. In 1996, a 12-year-old boy named Hunter Scott started a history project. He realised the Navy lied. His project went to Congress. In 2001, the Navy finally exonerated Captain McVay. It took a 12-year-old boy to do what the US government had refused to do for 50 years. The Sharks took 600 men, but bureaucracy took the captain. What do you think? Was McVay a criminal, or was he the final victim of the USS Indianapolis? Let me know in the comments.